I know what you're thinking. He's lost the plot. Or he's at least just looking for clickbait. How can GamerSci be comparing the recently released and very well received Sega Megadrive Mini to the god-awful AtGames Megadrive? Well, firstly, I'm not comparing it to this. That would be silly. I'm comparing it to this. The Sega Megadrive Flashback. Now, again, I'm sure a lot of you out there are thinking, well, hang on, that was already being reviewed. People have known for ages that's a load of rubbish. It still suffers from ropey emulation, janky menus, and all the things that AtGames are well known for. Well, you'd be right and you'd be wrong. What AtGames did is, yeah, they released the Flashback and it wasn't very good. And then, under little to no fanfare, they redid it and they released it again in 2018 as this one. Now, if you're saying you don't know what you're talking about, Simon, that's rubbish. It's AtGames, it's terrible. Unless you've played this one, the 2018 edition, then bear with me. Now, you can tell if it's a 2018 edition. 2018 edition would be awesome. But a 2018 edition, it will have a volume slider knob. This bit will be white instead of red, and most importantly, it will have an SD slot. The original one did not have an SD slot. Now, let's compare the two. So, the Flashback, it looks remarkably like an actual Sega Mega Drive. It says AtGames there though, which is unfortunate. It's not quite as accurate as the scaled down Sega Mini. If you look, there's a bit more detail on the Mini. Mini feels very, very well made. Little cartridge slot there that does nothing, and a little Mega CD port that does nothing, but it feels very good quality, nice materials used, whereas the Flashback uses it's that plastic, you know, like Kinder Egg plastic, you know, a bit like what you'd find in like on cheap toys, you know, like from discount shops, straight from China, that sort of thing. So it's fine, but yeah, build quality, you can't compare it to the official Sega Mini. But it does have a couple of tricks up its sleeve. Now, it has a working card slot, which does work very well. The volume knob doesn't actually do anything. The reset's fine, the on and off works as you'd expect. The SD card is officially supported. It wasn't when the thing was first released, but a official firmware update actually allows you to load games from SD. On the rear, you've just got the same, got HDMI, and it powers itself the same as the Mini does via micro USB. So yeah, I've got no complaints really about it physically. It's just not as nice as that. Now, it does come with a couple of these wireless controllers. They're not the awful infrared things they used to come with, but in all honesty, they're not very good. They are 6-button, but for whatever reason, they just don't seem very accurate. Thankfully, original Sega controllers are supported, which is, again, is something you cannot say for the Mini. So, all that aside, let's see how they actually work, which is what matters at the end of the day. Yeah, let's have a look. So, upon loading the Sega Genesis Flashback, Sega Mega Drive Flashback, even though it still says Genesis on the screen, you've got this menu. It's fairly basic. It does show you the box art for the games. The menu has been improved from the previous version. You can easily go around it now. As you can see, games are in various different alphabetical orders, or by recently played, by Sonic Games. You've also still got those bonus games. Forget about them. There's about 12 of them. They're all rubbish. It'd be better if they weren't on the console at all, to be quite honest, because they'd bring it down a bit, reduce the overall value just by being there. That's how bad they are. But it's all fairly standard. There's nothing flash here. It just allows you to zoom around. You can update the firmware. As I've said, you can load games via SD, which is these screens here. I don't get the pretty artwork, but it works fine. You can scroll through them in alphabetical order and choose the game. It all seems to work as it should. Now, the Sega Megadrive Mini's input OS looks like this. It's a lot cleaner, it's a lot brighter. You do have options for which way you want to view the games, in what order. It's all very nice and clean. I wouldn't say it's quite as nice as the Nintendo versions, but there's nothing really to complain about here. Okay, so the first game I'm going to have a look at is Castlevania Bloodlines, or Castlevania New Generation. I think this is a really good one to have a look at because it has a very iconic soundtrack. It's one of the games that pushes the Mega Drive a little bit. So obviously the AtGames console is always known for falling down on soundtracks, so I've kind of picked a few games tonight with very iconic soundtracks. This is a game actually I've been playing a lot recently, the actual Mega Drive cartridge. Doesn't seem to get talked about as much as it should do, knowing Castlevania Bloodlines. It's very, very good. So, as you pick John Morris, you've got to have the fella with the whip in a Castlevania game. So anyway, yeah, this is Castlevania Bloodlines, and as you'll see, this is running from the SD card in the flashback, because the flashback doesn't come with this game as standard. But visuals all look fine. It's outputting 720p, the same as the Mega Drive Mini. So yeah, this is the flashback version of this game. Well, this game running on the flashback, I should say. And as you can see here, it's all looks fine. Alright, now here is the Sega Mega Drive Mini version. It'll display it as Castlevania New Generation because it's running on PAL settings. Well, it's on auto settings, but it doesn't affect the speed of the game in this game. It runs it at full pace, and as you can see, it looks and sounds exactly the same. Jumping forward to here though, there's something I did want to point out. Watch this. In the level with the fishmen. And there is a definite stutter and slowdown there. That surprised me, to the point where I actually went back and replayed this section a few times, and every time on the official Sega Mega Drive Mini, this will actually slightly stutter at that point, as if the system's not quite catching up with everything that's on screen. I replayed it a couple of times on the flashback one, it doesn't happen. It's quite surprising that it does. Now, to be fair, I've not noticed this with any other games, but I think that needs pointing out, that in this one situation, the Sega Mega Drive Mini is being outperformed by the AtGames Flashback. Moving on, we have the iconic Sonic the Hedgehog. Got to go with the original one here. We all know this one. This is one game that was being negatively affected not only by poor AtGames products in the past, but also the original PAL release, which was done at a slower rate. Now, the Flashback and the Megadrive Mini both seem to run this absolutely fine. I'm not hearing any problems with the sound on either device, which is something that we were never able to say before on previous emulation devices. Well, previous AtGames ones anyway. All looks fine, you'll see both systems can run this without any problems at all. An iconic game and one we're all familiar with, so I think it makes for a good comparison. And lastly, that most iconic of Sega Mega Drive soundtracks, gotta be of course Streets of Rage 2. Runs absolutely fine on both consoles, pretty much identical from what I can tell. Of course, the advantage that the Sega Mini has is it's a mini console. Its small form factor lines up really nice with the other ones, just fit underneath your TV like that, allowing you to access loads of games. I think what the defining factor will be is once this is hacked, which has got to only be a matter of days now, and you can load it up with full ROM sets or thereabouts, like was possible with the NES Classic and the SNES Classic. Yeah, this is going to be all you need. For all I've praised the Megadrive Flashback, once we get a fully loaded Megadrive Mini, it's going to kind of be superfluous. It is alright, it works, like I say, very well, and if you're actually wanting a HD Megadrive to play your cartridges, yeah, it's worth looking into. It's one of those, it pulls the ROM and plays it a lot like the Retron, so if you've used a Retron 5, you'll kind of know what to expect from this. Anyway, this might end up being the most controversial video I think I've ever released. Honestly, wasn't done for clickbait. I really do think that this one here had a little bit of a bad ride, a little bit of a... He was paying for the sins of his older brother, if you like. Anyway, I've been GamerSci. Keep it hard.